All right, today we are going to be doing an unboxing review of the Dynam F6F Hellcat. This is their plug-and-play version, and well, let's kind of get into it here and see what we think about this plane. Now, I've never had a Dynam, but I can say just first kind of impressions looking at the box, it's a little concerning on what the quality is going to be. A box inside of a box. We ordered this off of Motion RC. Cost was $179. Free shipping. There we go. Box inside of a box. There we have it. Now this model looks like it is not the plug and play. We have an RTF model here. So right out of the gate we've received the wrong plane. That means we've got a transmitter radio inside the box if this is accurate. So that's kind of an interesting find. Wingspan on this is not huge. It's 50 inches or 1,270 millimeters. Okay, looks like we got more boxes inside of boxes. Interesting, you know, the packaging on this. I've bought several of the Horizon planes, and you know, you open the box and there's the plane. This is a little different experience already. Crumpled up paper, like we've got some props. Oh, 3 props, and these actually feel pretty sturdy. It's not the cheap brittle plastic style props. So it's kind of a nice surprise. What else have we got in here? Okay, let's go ahead and open up mystery box number 1. We've got, looks like we've got a canopy and our pilot, some stickers, some various servo wires, more propellers, and again, well, that's interesting. These have a different feel to them. These are almost more flexible. These feel more like that brittle plastic. So I wonder if these had such a failure rate, they had to start including these. Okay, well, we'll kind of figure that out as we go. And next we've got our assorted parts bag. So already out of the gate, I can see I'm going to be doing quite a bit of assembly. In fact, looks like we've got servo horns in here. It's like carbon fiber rods, a little tube of glue. Let's go ahead and do this guy. I'm guessing this is the horizontal stabilizer. And sure enough, oh, we got our tail complete. Double check nothing else is in there. Alright. Yep, and as I suspected, no servo horns. So we'll be installing those. And we've got our plastic bits for screwing into, at least installed, embedded in the wing. Alrighty. What else have we got? Here we have a wing and a carbon fiber rod, so there's our reinforcing rod. And boy, wings look nice and clean. I'm gonna open this up just because I think it's gonna be easy to show. The glue job is terrible on this. I don't know if you can see all that smear there, but that's a little disappointing right out of the gate. Looks like we've got our servos installed and a large vertical crack. It looks like somebody's tried to force this. For our flaps? Yeah, that's our flaps. So that's interesting. Boy, a lot of pressure on that. That servo wants to move back already on its own. Gears don't look like anything special. In fact, interestingly enough, we're really protruding out of the front profile of the wing. Huh. Of course, we've got our servo leads. So we've got our two wing pieces, and this must be our fuse. Oh, looks like we've got some graphics. Indeed we do. Some assembly instructions. Let's go ahead and eject the boxes. I love these utility knives that have the auto retract, because as you're working around, you forget you've got it in your hand. Boy, that could be a saver. Right there. And we got our fuse. Now let's go ahead and open up our fuse bag here and take a closer look. Always curious. Looks like we've already lost our front cowl in the bag. There's our cowl. Looks like it's, well, magnetically attached, but the magnets are not glued in well and already are falling out. First impressions, again, kind of a sloppy build. You know, it looks like there's some glue smear here, but it's hard to see, but there's fingerprints in the glue. Wonder if we could ID the poor person in China that made this for me. Canopy obviously is missing its glass. Magnets look like these are at least in pretty well. Yes, they are. And our fuse. Looks like we've got our speed controller, a couple servos. Just going down to a tail. Oh, yeah, there we go. So we're going to put our tail wheel on. Seriously, this is kind of a little shocking. Again, glued on, falling off. The artificial cream color, really not matching the rest of the plane for a decorative air scoop of some kind. Interesting. Determ. Don't think I've ever heard of that brand, probably specific to this plane. You know, the other thing too is this plane I can see is got a very obvious joint glue line down the center. And I mean, immediately if things falling off, I want to, yeah, sure enough, that's going to need to be glued. And we've got a large gap up here we can actually close pushing on it. So, interesting. Not the build quality I expected. However, again, it's $179, Motion RC. I don't see a radio or a controller, so definitely their cheaper version of this plane, which is just fine. That's what we thought we had ordered. Yeah, we'll have to kind of go into a little bit of a build here, put it together, and start deciding what we think about the quality before we take it out for a flight and maiden it. So stay tuned for that. All right, so here's our build basically complete. I wanted to actually take a moment here though and just kind of do a first impressions based on the build. There are a lot of things with this plane, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the cowl on, that I don't know, I just find frustrating. For instance, you can take a look at the giant gaps we've got here, about 1/8 of an inch. And then the fact that we don't have any bleed over in the paint. So all of our lines here are very visible. The cowling is very loose. And I really worry about that coming into contact with the prop. Boy, we're talking thin margins here. So, you know, out of the gate, that's kind of a concern for me. You know, other things that are concerns for me as well, I'm having a heck of a time having consistent operation with the landing gears. One gear works fine consistently, the other one does not. In fact, you know what I'll do here is I'll just go ahead and throw a battery in just so we can get a little bit of power. I have to forgive the, there we go, handling. You know, the LEDs are quite pleasant on the wingtips. Even though we've got such a terrible glue job. Oh, well, apparently the gears wanted to do their own thing. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my radio here, get that beeping to stop. Boy, tell you what, these gears choosing to operate whenever they want to is very frustrating. So I'll go ahead and cycle them. It looks like yeah, they both work just fine. And the hard part for me is it really feels very random. This is definitely a bird that when you take it out flying, it's going to have the question of whether it's coming home in one piece just based on whether or not you're going to have landing gears. So I'm going to go ahead and raise those and take and flip the plane over. There's some things that are worth going over. So the first is, again, we've talked about how far these protrude. There's a lot more detailed shot. You know, when we start talking about ailerons in our servos, these actually look pretty decent. However, because the wing came pre-assembled, you assume something was assembled correctly, and we can see, get the right angle here, that our deflection on the flaps here is off, and there's a big gap. Now that's easy enough to fix. We're just going to take and tighten our servo horn here, and off we go. But it's again one of those kind of characteristics of this plane that it's kind of just a little sloppy in its construction. I'm gonna have to take and put some effort in to also just adjusting our servos and our throws here for our wheels and rudder. Not the end of the world. You know, I wouldn't have mind seeing a little bit more robust hinge system. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over again. The flaps are of particular frustration for me. So I'm going to go ahead and actuate our flaps. There we go, so we can see how they function. So hopefully you can see this. These flaps are not, you know, creasing on the line there, but we're also tearing the foam. So we're going to actuate these, you know, a couple dozen times, and I think we're actually at risk of the flaps tearing clean through. There is no reinforcement whatsoever, versus the ailerons, which have at least a properly built fold region. And, you know, that's nice from the standpoint of, hey, it's not going to wear out. I'm not tearing the foam. This really is an afterthought that they put into this. Very frustrating that it's that bad. But again, fit and finish. We throw the fuse back on. We can see that gap. I mean, it really carries itself around. And even our fuselage is splitting. And the hard part is I've got this white seam. The only way to get rid of it, I feel like, is going to be, you know, Sharpies and paint and whatnot, which is a little frustrating. Let's go ahead and let those poor flap servos take a break. They're screaming at us. Another thing that, you know, continues to haunt this plane is this front cowl. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the prop. And the prop seems fine, but these are the magnets that we had to glue back in. And even though the one I glued in is fine, what I discovered is the one that I hadn't is it's broken, needing some more glue. But these magnets do not make any form of contact with this magnet here, meaning that there's a gap and the cowl essentially really is floating. So, you know, first hard landing, you're gonna have that cowl come forward right into the prop, and well, you know, hopefully their parts are available for replacements. 170, you know, dollars. You know, we've got carbon fiber guns, which I thought was unusual. But for 170 bucks, I got to be honest, I just, you know, don't know that this plane was worth the money. So I'm gonna hunt around. I'm gonna look at some other options. You know, Horizon has some offerings in the you know, $270 range for their Bearcat, if I recall. You know, $100 more, yes, but for a plane that you feel like you can rely on, that's a big component here for me. So there's our kind of quick top-down review. We'll see about adding graphics later, and you know, we're gonna probably still go with the Cali graphics, but I feel like long before I can get there, I'm gonna be having to do a lot of cleanup to the design and the paint jobs here. I mean, even on the leading edge of the wing, you can see the overspray. So we'll take and fly it, and we'll let you know what we think. All right, so I wanted to just cover another interesting discovery here as I've been working on this plane. So decided I was going to go ahead and get this thing flight worthy. You can see I've even put on my graphics, so that's fun. Decided, hey, I need to adjust my control surfaces here. We've got some angles that are off. So still working on that, getting the tail aligned, rudder's looking nice. Got over to the elevator and was having just a heck of a time getting it to be consistent, especially after I would throw the servos. And the reason for it is, well, there's no threads on my control rods. So yeah, this one over here. So this one, I'm trying to get a good angle here. Yep, there you go. We've got a nice threaded control rod, and on this side we have nothing. So just getting this bird into the air now just requires that many more steps. You know, and again, so this bird hasn't been in the air, but you can start to see these problems that I'm fighting, where our foam is starting to delaminate. Very poor glue job. You know, I'm going to keep moving forward with trying to get this thing airworthy, but my goodness, it's awfully uphill.